I've been asked to explain or re-explain why people should take chemistry for one, and a few things about the way we do it, and a little bit about how you can get some college credit for doing it here. The reason why you should take chemistry, in fact, the reason why you should become versed in science, even if your major is not going to be a science major, is because you can see the result of having people who make the decisions for things like, countries, states, towns that have zero scientific background. They make decisions that are maybe a little less than perfect because they are forced to believe the experts who claim to know everything about whatever specific topic it is, like, say, viruses or man-made global warming or ozone holes or any evolution, any of the other amazing myths that have been foisted on us as a supposedly thinking public. And so what you want to be able to do is make your own decisions about those things. And to do it, you have to stay with facts and data and analyze your vote, for instance, based on the truth. And of course, we all kind of know where the truth comes from. Not everybody does. And you also have to prepare yourself with arguments based on facts and data, not on emotions, when you encounter people who disagree with you. So you should take science. Now, why should you take chemistry specifically? Well, back in the day, there were two kinds of science, hard science and soft science. And I'm not sure where biology fit in. I suppose chemists and especially physicists think of biology as a soft science. But if it is a soft science, it's getting harder all the time. And by hard, I mean it's getting more fact-based. It's getting based on more on information that we actually have about how cells work. And what we discover is that how cells work is that they are amazing chemical factories. So to really understand biology, you find that you really have to understand chemistry. The other thing about chemistry is it's probably the first time in your or your students' life where they are actually asked to run their own learning process. When you're in junior high, and certainly when you're in elementary school, the teacher tells you what to do, assigns homework, grades everything, really a lot of work. But you're not expected to really plan your own time. The way I look at chemistry, because it comes for most people in their junior year, maybe sophomore year, sometimes senior year, is that you should be able to figure out your own schedule of study, and you should be able to use the tools that come from my lectures, the book, and other resources to be able to accumulate the knowledge you need to pass the module you're working on. So it's important to get that, and you want to get it before college, because if you get to college and suddenly discover you have to take a hard science and you've never had one in high school, bad things happen, and they can cause you to fail, which you really don't want to do at all because it's a big waste of money. So that's the reason why you should take chemistry. Now, why should you take chemistry from me? Well, here's why, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to brag. It's easy to be humble if you know what I really am deep down inside, but you don't. I was actually a chemist. I spent 15 years earning a living doing chemistry at what used to be called Pfizer Animal Health in Lincoln, Nebraska. And so I understand a lot about how these things that we study really work in real life. Most chemistry teachers are teachers first, and I'm not knocking them because I know quite a few, but they haven't really experienced it. I've experienced it, and I can bring that to the table. An example of that is in lab. Lab is extremely important in any science because having actually to see how things work is much more useful and valuable and important than just hearing about how it ought to work, the theory part. But the way I assess lab is that what's important is the way you document your work, not whether you get the right answer, whatever that is or not, but how you write it up, how you document it, how you reference the sources that you use to do your experiment, what the results were, whether you liked them or didn't, And then if necessary or possibly you can make a conclusion as to why what happened. But what's important is to get the documentation straight. The reason I think that's critical is because if you do lab work for a regulatory agency like FDA, which I did for many years, that's what you have to do. If your documentation is off, they'll reject your work. As a matter of fact, you could actually be responsible for getting one of your company's products pulled from the shelves because of an error in your laboratory notebook, and all you are is an analyst making $14 an hour, and the CEO of your company is now hurting because his stock options just went in the toilet. Well, it's all, you get the idea. Anyway, the point is, documentation is what's key. That's the way we handle the labs. And of course, it is more useful and certainly more fun to do the lab with someone else, some other fellow victim called a lab partner. And that's what happens when you do the labs with us at the link. Okay, so that's why you should take chemistry. That's why you should take science. That's why you should learn to think like a scientist. That's why you should not have to take the word of an expert for it. You should be able to do your own studying and make your own conclusions about things that have facts and data to get you there. Now, we have two kinds of chemistry we teach at the link. One is just called chemistry, and that would be high school chemistry. It is suddenly I'm old and I can't think of what to call it. Oh, it's a dual credit course, and it's all set up that way so that if you sign up and pay not very much to Concordia College, in my case, you can sign up to get dual credit for this chemistry class. In other words, you'll have credit for it as a high school chemistry class. You will have to take a test to prove that you learned something, which is fine. I'm not worried about that. All my students learn something. And then you will get credit for it in college. Now, why would you care? Well, let's suppose you really don't want to take science in college. You don't want to be in a 500-person lecture hall being lectured by a guy with a PhD who thinks you're really some sort of a small worm interfering with his time for research with his graduate students, and the real teaching is going on with a guy in the lab who's a teaching assistant, but he doesn't actually speak English. Yes, trust me, that happens a lot. And if that's your only experience that you're going to have with chemistry, you're not going to like it. Testing out of it by getting dual credit in high school is a way to avoid all of that. So if you're a non-science major, there's every reason to do this. But suppose you're majoring in science. Why wouldn't you want to start with a leg up on all the other kids? Because now you have credit, like at the university, if you are majoring in, let's say you're an engineering student, you take Chemistry 109. Now you've tested out of it. You have credit for it. You don't have to take it. It saves you a semester. It saves you a semester of tuition. It saves you a lot of time and anguish because Chemistry 109, like most freshman chemistry classes, is kind of a flunk-out course anyway. Don't get me started, but you can call me and ask me what I mean by that. You can avoid all that. Okay, so that's the reason why you should take it for dual credit, and you should get excited about the fact that there's that opportunity. Now, the second opportunity is we have an advanced chemistry class. We're not the only organization that offers 2 years of high school chemistry, but we have a textbook for advanced regular chemistry and one for advanced chemistry, and it's a separate class, and it really carries the stuff that you cover sort of just on the surface in the survey aspect of high school chemistry down into in deeper areas. So you learn more. There's one topic, radiochemistry, that isn't covered at all in the regular chemistry class. But all the other topics are covered, but they're covered very superficially because you have to get through them all. In advanced chemistry, you get to dig into them more deeply. And I believe that when you're done with advanced chemistry, you will have taken the equivalent of Chemistry 114 at the university, which is the chemistry for chemistry majors. So actually, I'm not sure if you can get credit for 109 and 114, but I got to tell you, you'll know some serious chemistry when you're done with advanced chemistry at the link. So there's a reason to take chemistry once, because you want to become more of a scientist than a person who's just pushed around by the experts, whoever they are. And you want to take advanced chemistry if you could stand chemistry at all. I mean, if you're able to pass it, you can do advanced chemistry because you're kind of intrigued and you want to know a little bit more about why these things do what they do. So those are my arguments for doing all this. And Oh, there is another thing is we have used the same textbook for chemistry since 2003. You can figure out how many years that is. And I've loved it. The author is Dr. Jay Weil, and it's an Apologia homeschool designed chemistry book. And it's wonderful, and it's done from a God-centered viewpoint. In other words, by a guy who's a Christian. I am a Christian, and I very much appreciate that viewpoint, which you're not going to get in public school and certainly not going to get at any university, because it takes into account what I call the reality of life. The reality of life is God created the heavens and the earth. You know the drill. So that is good. Well, a few years ago, Jay had a split with Apologia. They had a disagreement. I've heard rumors, but I don't know for sure what it was, that they disagreed about. It had something to do with theology. And he split off of Apologia and continued to recommend his second edition chemistry text to anybody who would ask. And then they decided to do a third edition. Well, he reviewed the third edition. I've been on his blog, and you can, W-I-L-E, he's right there, Jay Weil, you can get his blog. He read the second edition, and he didn't like it. He thought there were a lot of errors in it, not just errors, not just typos, but things that he just disagreed with, bad conclusions. So he said what I would have, I guess, said if I'd had the time in the same situation, hey, I better write my own. So he wrote his own. He wrote his own, and it's called Discovering Design Through Chemistry. And I should really have a copy of the book. Miss Producer, do you want to get me a copy of the Discovering Design Through Chemistry? I think it's over there in that pile. It's over here. Yeah, there it is. My producer has just brought me this book. It looks like this. And it is a wonderful book. I have not read it word for word, but I have reviewed it. And the main thing about it is it offers the modules. It's the same material, but it offers it in a different order. And this you will love if you have a student who is struggling in any way, shape, or form with any sort of math. Many students have a real struggle with chemistry because algebra comes up, and it's not that they don't know any algebra, it's just that they don't know it well enough that you can breeze by some equation and they'll be still going, what did he just do 5 minutes later? And you miss all the stuff in between. Well, chemistry, the original book we've used for the last, 16, 17 years, has things in a different order and introduces some fairly challenging algebra stuff in the module 2. This book does not do that. This book is more work its way into it. Certainly there's mathematics involved in chemistry. There has to be. And certainly Algebra 1 is the level where you want to be. But if you're one of these parents who thinks, gee, how can I put this together because my son or daughter is halfway through Algebra 1, can I sign up for chemistry and expect him, her, or it to succeed? And the answer is, with this textbook, you can. Because by the time you get to the stuff where the math gets tricky, the student will have gotten deep enough into Algebra 1 that it won't be so frightening. A lot of it is psychological, I admit. Some of it's real. But either way, this is a better book. It's organized in a better way. It has more interesting and fun experiments. We just butchered 3 of them ourselves, and you just ask my producer, and she'll tell you, yeah, these are interesting experiments, even if we didn't mess them up. So there you have it. That's my story. I'm sticking to it until I get a better one. And thanks for listening. I will put this on pause now and see you later.